Have you ever walked away from someone and felt guilty for choosing peace over chaos? Have you ever questioned your sanity after someone hurt you, then acted like nothing happened? What if I told you there's a powerful, ancient philosophy that helps you not only recognize toxic behavior, but walk away without losing your soul in the process? Welcome to the channel that's all about transforming adversity into strength. If you're on a path of self-mastery, mental clarity, and personal growth, make sure to subscribe and join a community that values wisdom over noise and truth over comfort. Today, we're going deep into the Stoic approach to toxic relationships. How to recognize them, how to break free, and how to reclaim your power without losing your peace. 1. Seeing through the Stoic lens. Stoicism isn't about emotionless living. It's about disciplined emotion. The Stoic doesn't deny the existence of emotions. Instead, they train themselves to ensure that emotions don't drive their decisions. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and philosopher, lived in a world of constant tension, where betrayal, political schemes, and manipulation were part of daily life. Yet, despite the pressures of leadership and personal betrayal, he wrote meditations to himself that were grounded, clear, and resilient. How did he maintain his clarity in the face of such chaos? He practiced the discipline of separating what was within his control from what was not. That simple but powerful division was his armor. The behavior of others, out of his control. His values, reactions, and principles, entirely his responsibility. This mental boundary kept him from becoming consumed by the noise of the outside world. In a world where people can drain your energy and manipulate your peace, Stoicism offers a framework of clarity and protection. It's not about retreating or becoming cold. It's about developing the internal discipline to stay rooted in reason. The first Stoic rule is simple but profound. If it's not under your control, it does not deserve your emotional energy. That includes how others speak to you, how they twist narratives, or how they try to rewrite history after hurting you. You may never get the apology, the recognition, or the closure. Stoicism trains you not to need it. What matters is how you conduct yourself, not how others behave. This isn't weakness, it's mastery. You take back your energy not by winning the argument, but by choosing not to be baited in the first place. Toxic people thrive on reaction. The Stoic thrives on stillness, and recognizing that difference is the first gate to your freedom. The manipulator pokes, prods, and provokes, hoping to drag you into their emotional storm. But the Stoic sees the bait and steps back. They ask themselves, is this mine to carry? Often the answer is no. By learning to pause, to breathe, and to assess, you regain your sovereignty. Reaction is a chain. Every time you react automatically, you are being pulled. But response, calm, intentional, deliberate, is a sword. You cut through the illusion and see the moment clearly. This is how Stoicism becomes your lens, not to deny reality, but to face it with clarity, strength, and detachment. 2. Defining toxicity through a Stoic filter. A toxic person isn't just someone you don't get along with. They're someone whose behavior repeatedly chips away at your sense of peace, self-respect, and emotional clarity. The Stoic doesn't judge based on a single moment, but on the pattern of behavior. As Epictetus said, don't explain your philosophy, embody it. The same logic applies when identifying toxicity. You don't evaluate someone solely based on apologies or charm. You look at what they consistently do. Do they create confusion? Do they weaponize guilt? Do they drain your focus and distort your sense of self? Then you're not simply in conflict. You're in a dynamic where peace is no longer safe. Stoicism teaches you to stop excusing patterns that repeat. Character is revealed not by what someone says in moments of calm, but by what they repeatedly do when the stakes are high. Gaslighting, chronic entitlement, guilt-tripping, or emotional blackmail. These aren't flaws, they're tactics. And the longer you pretend they're just quirks or communication issues, the more damage is done. A Stoic doesn't rationalize them away. He names them. Naming is power. Once you see manipulation for what it is, you can no longer unsee it. Then you detach. Not out of cruelty, but out of wisdom. You understand that engagement with dysfunction only deepens your own disorientation. Detachment, in this sense, is an act of emotional self-defense. It's saying, I will no longer participate in the erosion of my own peace. Stoicism reminds us, when someone repeatedly disrupts your inner world, it's no longer about them, it's about what you're allowing. The Stoic doesn't waste time trying to change people who refuse to change. Instead, they take full responsibility for their own boundaries. You may not be able to change how someone acts, but you can change your proximity to them. You can choose silence. You can choose distance. You can choose peace. In doing so, you reclaim your power, not by forcing the world to align with your expectations, but by adjusting your own behavior to preserve your sanity. That's the Stoic way. 3. The cost of holding on. The Stoics warned against allowing external chaos to infect internal order. Life will always be chaotic. People will disappoint you. They will lie, distort, and sometimes betray. But if every external event enters your inner sanctum, you'll constantly be at the mercy of others. That's not freedom, that's imprisonment. When you let toxic people dictate your emotional state, you surrender your highest power, your judgment. The very core of Stoicism is your capacity to reason clearly, to act with purpose, and to live according to virtue. But that clarity becomes clouded when your energy is spent obsessing over someone else's dysfunction. The more time you spend analyzing their lies, their motives, or their cruelty, the less time you have to focus on your own path. You begin to question yourself. You overanalyze conversations. You start to wonder if maybe you were too harsh, too sensitive, or too emotional. This is how manipulation works. It doesn't just confuse the situation, it confuses you. And once you're confused, you're easier to control. You react more, you spiral into cycles of blame, resentment, and emotional fatigue. This is what Epictetus meant when he said, if someone succeeds in provoking you, realize your mind is complicit. But don't confuse this with self-blame. It's not about fault, it's about empowerment. Recognizing your role in the emotional dynamic doesn't mean you caused the harm. It means you now have the power to change your role in the story. You can't control their manipulation. You can't rewrite their story. But you can control your response. And sometimes the most powerful response is silence and space. Not to punish, not to prove a point, but to reclaim your perspective. Silence is not weakness, it's strength under control. Space is not avoidance, it's self-preservation. The Stoic doesn't chase closure from those who benefit from your confusion. Instead, they build clarity from within. They let go, not because it's easy, but because their peace is more valuable than any explanation. Holding on comes at a cost, and when that cost is your inner harmony, the decision becomes clear. Let go, step back, and return to yourself. 4. The Stoic's path to disengagement. Disengaging from a toxic dynamic isn't cowardice, it's wisdom in action. It is the conscious decision to no longer participate in cycles of harm. Many people stay in destructive relationships, environments, or patterns not because they are unaware, but because they confuse endurance with virtue. Stoicism doesn't ask you to endure abuse or manipulation. It asks you to endure life's inevitable hardships with grace, but also to act with reason and self-respect. Walking away from something that consistently violates your peace is not an act of weakness. It is a demonstration of clarity and courage, the very virtues Stoics prized. Recognition. Stop excusing consistent harm. Observe patterns, not words. Stoicism begins with perception, seeing things as they are, not as you wish them to be. When dealing with a toxic dynamic, clarity often arrives when you stop focusing on isolated incidents and start recognizing patterns. Promises made and broken. Apologies that never lead to change. Subtle put-downs masked as jokes. Gaslighting that makes you question your own reality. The Stoic response is not to dramatize or deny, but to observe without distortion. As Epictetus taught, we must learn to distinguish between what is within our control and what is not. We can't control others' behavior, but we can control our response, and that starts by refusing to be deceived by empty words. Detachment. Your worth is not tied to how others treat you. Their actions are their mirror, not yours. Detachment does not mean apathy. It means refusing to take on the emotional baggage that doesn't belong to you. A toxic person often wants to make you feel responsible for their anger, their mood swings, their chaos. But the Stoic knows we are only accountable for our own conduct. Detachment is the art of stepping back emotionally without turning cold. It's the calm inner stance that says, I see what's happening, but I will not internalize it. You are not defined by disrespect. Their cruelty does not reflect your value. Let their behavior remain a reflection of who they are, not a verdict on who you are. Dialogue, if possible. Use your voice without expectation. Speak boundaries, not ultimatums. If the situation allows, speak with clarity, not to change the other person, but to honor your own truth. The Stoic speaks with purpose, not to manipulate outcomes, but to act with integrity. A boundary is not a threat. It is a statement of where you end and someone else begins. You are not responsible for how others react to your truth. Your role is to speak it calmly, firmly, and consistently. The goal is not domination or control. It is alignment. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, if someone is mistaken, instruct them kindly. If that doesn't work, then stop arguing. You're not here to win fights. You're here to win peace. Withdrawal. When toxicity persists, reduce exposure, not to punish them, but to protect your peace. This is not about vengeance or passive aggression. It's about reclaiming your mental and emotional space. Stoic protects their inner citadel, the seat of reason and tranquility. If someone's presence constantly disturbs that space, withdrawal becomes an act of self-preservation. This could mean reducing contact, setting firm limits, or stepping away altogether. You do not need permission to protect your peace. You don't owe constant access to people who violate your values. Withdrawal is not abandonment. It is an assertion of your right to live free of emotional erosion. Exit with integrity. Walk away, not in anger, but in alignment with who you're becoming. Anger burns quickly, but purpose, character, and self-respect burn steadily. A Stoic exit is quiet but powerful. You don't storm out, you step out with clarity. You're not walking away from someone, you're walking toward your own alignment. That means you leave without bitterness, without the need to justify yourself, and without theatrics. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, the best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury. To walk away with grace, without stooping to the level of those who harmed you, is the ultimate form of strength. You're not seeking revenge, you're seeking peace. 5. Finding peace after the exit. Leaving doesn't end the journey. Sometimes the echoes of manipulation linger. That's when the real inner work begins. You may have removed yourself from the situation, but the aftershocks still rattle the mind. Doubts creep in. Regret whispers in the quiet. Memories replay on a loop. It's tempting to second-guess yourself, to wonder if you overreacted, if you misunderstood, if you should have stayed longer. But these thoughts are remnants of the psychological entanglement you just escaped. A Stoic doesn't suppress them, they examine them. They understand that peace is not found in the absence of thought, but in the clarity of thought. This is where the true practice begins, the cleansing of the mind, the rebuilding of the self. Journaling clears mental fog. It brings order to inner chaos. When you write your thoughts down, you externalize the confusion. You see patterns, you gain insight. Journaling is not about reliving pain, it's about processing it. It's an act of personal archaeology, unearthing what lies buried. Stoics like Marcus Aurelius used journaling as a daily exercise. His meditations were private reflections never meant for publication. Yet they reveal how even an emperor wrestled with doubt, anger, and fear. Likewise, your journal can be a space for truth, not performance. Write what hurts. Write what heals. In that act, you begin to reclaim authorship over your own story. Meditation returns you to the present moment. It interrupts the endless replay of the past. When your nervous system has been wired for vigilance, always scanning for the next betrayal, meditation is the radical act of stillness. It tells the body, you're safe now. You don't have to brace anymore. Stoic meditation is not the same as escapism. It is grounded in the real. It means focusing on what is within your control, releasing what is not, and sitting with the discomfort of healing. Even 1 minute of still breathing is a form of resistance against the storm of inner noise. Over time, that calm becomes your baseline. Practicing gratitude heals the nervous system. It reorients the mind toward what remains, what is strong, beautiful, and worthy in your life. Gratitude doesn't mean ignoring the pain, it means anchoring in what's real and sustaining. A cup of tea, a loyal friend, a quiet morning. These are not small things. They are evidence that not all is lost. As the Stoics believed, everything can be taken from you except how you respond. Gratitude is a defiant response. It says, despite the wounds, I still see light. That perspective is what begins to rebuild your emotional architecture. Surrounding yourself with purpose-driven people is critical. Healing in isolation is possible, but community accelerates growth. Toxic relationships often isolate you, chip away at your sense of reality, and make you feel alone in your pain. The antidote is healthy connection. Find those who inspire growth, who respect your boundaries, who uplift your character. Their presence acts like scaffolding around a rebuilding self. You start to remember who you were before the manipulation and who you are becoming now. Their support reminds you, you're not broken, you were bent, and you are straightening again. These are not just routines, they're rituals of renewal, Stoic tools for modern healing. As Seneca once wrote, we suffer more in imagination than in reality. This is especially true after enduring manipulation. The past tries to hold you hostage in your own mind. But every practice, journaling, meditation, gratitude, connection, is a key. Each one opens a door back to yourself. You don't need to rebuild overnight, but with each intentional step, you reclaim your ground. This is not merely recovery, it is transformation. You are not going back to who you were. You are becoming someone stronger, wiser, and freer. That is the Stoic path after the storm. Choosing self-preservation over self-betrayal. Walking away from toxicity doesn't make you heartless. It means you finally heard your heart. The Stoics never said life would be easy. They said it could be mastered. And mastery begins where people-pleasing ends. It begins when you stop managing other people's discomfort and start protecting your peace. If you found strength in today's message, don't just listen. Live it. Subscribe. Share this with someone who needs to hear it, and remember, freedom isn't found in controlling others. It's found in owning yourself.